So I'd like to welcome to the JPP, the Jewish Philanthropy podcast, Tamir Goodman, or AKA the Jewish Jordan. I don't know if you use that name so much anymore or not, but Tamir is actually an old friend. I had the great pleasure of having him as a guest speaker when I was a rabbi in Manhattan, and he hit it out of the park. He was somebody that people really gravitated toward, and people were really inspired by his story. For those who don't know, maybe the younger generation maybe doesn't know as much as people like myself, but Tamir was a Division I basketball player in college basketball as a frum Orthodox young man growing up, and that is a pretty significant sports accomplishment. Was featured in Sports Illustrated. Had a professional career in basketball, ultimately in Israel, and today has pivoted towards entrepreneurship, helping people. I'm going to let him, talk about who he is, but I'm just giving a little bit of backdrop. Tamir, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. For humbled and honored to be here. Thank you for thinking of me.
Okay, beautiful. So instead of me saying, why don't you share with our audience in your own words, who is Tamir Goodman in your own words?
Well, I think up until my basketball injury, I guess I want to say the first 20 years, 21 years of my life, I defined Tamir Goodman as trying to make a kiddush Hashem through basketball. Everything revolved around that. Everything revolved around statistics and playing well for Hashem, but playing well. Everything, my whole life was based on that. And unfortunately, I suffered a very, very bad knee injury my first pro season here in Israel, and had some really hard incidents that happened right before I got over to Israel. And everything kind of shifted from what do I need from Hashem, and what Hashem needs from me. So my first 20, Tamir Goodman, I would say the first 20 years of my life was what do I need from Hashem to help me make a kiddush Hashem on the court? Once I couldn't play anymore, realizing, okay, what does Hashem need from me to do through basketball now that I can't play anymore? And everything I do now fits under that category. It's like a flip.
The beautiful formulation. No, and like many people, no matter what walk of life, myself included, we all have ups and downs. We all have aspirations. We all have things that sometimes don't come to fruition the way we'd like them to. And we have to pivot and we have to adjust our sights. And that's a very powerful message. I imagine you probably have a lot to say to this generation in terms of we see now people upcoming in teenagers. It's amazing how many people from Orthodox backgrounds seemingly are penetrating the realms of professional sports. Like in our day, I remember watching you play for the very first time at a YU basketball tournament. I guess I was a student in YU in college at that point. I'm a few years older than you. You were still in high school in Baltimore, and you came to the tournament there, and I watched you play for the first time. But nowadays, you hear whether it's the baseball player, the different, it's interesting. I'm just curious what are you kind of seeing with the shift that there seem to be so many more people who are excelling on the highest echelons of professional sports from our community.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see it because me personally, I believe Hashem is everywhere, and Hashem wants us to live our best and most happy and meaningful life. And if Hashem gives us a talent, we're supposed to utilize it in the best way possible to make a kiddush Hashem. And it's it helps you have a really authentic relationship with Hashem through a talent that Hashem gave you. So everybody in their own way, you're not just going through the motions, but for me, when I played basketball, it's everything I did throughout the day was uplifted because basketball wasn't just about me. That's how I connected to Hashem. So it's the way you eat, the way you sleep, the way you interact, everything is now uplifted, and it's a really authentic way to live your life. So I'm really happy to see all the young athletes doing it, and I wish them a lot of blessings and success. And I think the world is ready for it. I think, Judaism's ready for it. I think, it's really exciting.
Cool. Take me back to your childhood. Take me back to kind of when did you recognize or realize that maybe you had a talent that maybe other people didn't have?
Yeah, so I was very, very blessed the way that I grew up. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and I once heard a Dvar Torah that if Moshe Rabbeinu didn't grow up the way that he grew up, probably none of this wouldn't have happened. He had a very expansive vision because of the way that he grew up. If he would have grown up in a typical Jewish home, he probably wouldn't have had the skill set or the vision that he had. So even though I grew up in a very observant home, I was in a very expansive home, and my parents from day one, even when I was 9 years old, I told them I wanted to show the world you could play Division I basketball on a scholarship without playing on Shabbat. They're like, let's go. But Jewish home, my parents were very expansive. Like, I told them I wanted to show the world I could play Division I basketball without playing on Shabbat, get that scholarship. I wanted to play professionally without playing on Shabbat, and they didn't blink an eye. They gave me all the support. My mother didn't really understand anything about basketball, but she gave me the green light. Coach was a couple blocks away from me. Like, I had a coach that like believed in me more than I believed in myself at a very young age. I cannot tell you how powerful that is. Someone by your side. By the way, I'm 41 years old. I still talk to my coach every day, maybe 2-3 times a day. Today I already spoke to him twice. Like, it's such a bracha. The Torah tells us, find yourself a rabbi, find yourself a mentor. It's like a great thing. Like, I've had that since a tiny age, and I still have it. So like, that was a huge bonus, because he never let me settle. He never let me settle. Like, if you want to do it, here's what it takes. So I had that. And then I also had, like, I was very united with the Judaism part. Like, a lot of people are like, does Hashem want this? Hashem doesn't want this, wants you to do it, doesn't want you to do it. Like, I grew up in a home where it's like, go out there and make a Kiddush Hashem. Like, my father used to take me to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which was very, very powerful for me. I remember going to the Lubavitcher Rebbe's Lag Bomer parade as a kid, wearing my Jordans, like, and holding up these signs of, like, Jewish pride. And it just, like, it all came together for me. So I grew up in the perfect world of, like, support, Jewish pride, and love of basketball, basically. So that was very, very big
just because you
blessing.
mentioned Jordan, it's kind of a parenthetical question. There's a big debate nowadays. I find that who's the GOAT, who's the greatest of all time, Jordan or LeBron James. And growing up, I'm 50, and growing up the way I grew up, I've seen them both play, and to me, like, Jordan was the greatest. Like, nobody's ever as great as Jordan. But like, these people from the next generation, like, maybe they didn't see Jordan play. I don't know. What do you think? I'm just curious. Like, what does
Yeah,
it take?
I think the best answer is Rashi's answer when comparing Noach to Avram. Like, you just can't compare generations,
Yeah,
because it's impossible. Like, just to think about, like, the way, I still do a lot of training, the way the kids are training now. Like, if Michael Jordan had that knowledge of what we now know about eating and taking care of our body, and, like, they say LeBron James spends $1 million a year just on his body. Like, if Jordan had those, like, that knowledge and that ability, like, I can't even imagine what he would have been. It's like impossible to compare. It's just literally
right. I guess
impossible.
it's like Lahavdil. It's like these tennis players who used to play with the wooden rackets. Like, compared to, like, the technology that they have today.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it is apples and oranges, right? How do you compare?
Yeah,
To
there's
the
no way
quality?
to compare.
I hear that. Okay, that's a
And
fair.
also, the game itself is so different. The actual fit, the way we play basketball is so different. So it's impossible to compare. Yeah.
I maybe it's just Girsa Diakasa, like, what you remember from when you're younger is always, like, closer to you, maybe. So that's why maybe for me it's like more.
So here's the thing. It's very interesting. I think about this all the time. Because the kids nowadays could watch their favorite players over and over and over again. Let's just say you like a study a move by Kyrie Irving, right? So you can watch that over and over and over again. It doesn't penetrate your mind and heart as much as it did for our generation. Like, if Jordan did an amazing play, I saw it, maybe saw one instant replay, and I'm in the backyard working on it for hours. I can't watch it again. It's in my mind. What did I see? It's in my heart. It's so deeply embedded in me, but I only saw it once. What did I see? I don't know, but it's so deep in me
Wow.
that it's like it's hard for this generation to even imagine what that was like. But I remember specifically, like, when he switched hands to his left hand in
Right.
'91
I
against
remember
the
that too
Lakers.
in the NBA Finals. Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Right. And then, like, so we went outside, and that was it. You saw it, and what it was, I don't know. It's in my brain, in my heart. I'm on it. I'm working on it.
Right.
That's
That's
just
so
different. You can
interesting.
compare it.
When was the very first time that you realized, like, you had a passion for basketball, or that you had a talent for basketball? When did that happen?
Yeah, it was love at first sight. It was love at first sight. I cannot tell you how much I love the game at a very young age. Like, my brothers had to be at davening, let's just say, at like 7:30. They were in high school. I was in elementary. I didn't have to be there till 8:30. So I would go with them from 7:30 and play in the gym till 8:30. Our school ended at 3:30 in elementary. They were done at 6:30. I would just stay and play until 6:30, then watch their practice, and then stay. Like, I don't know if you know Coach Katz, like the coach who raised me. His son Donnie played for YU. Ellie's on the coach. They're both on the coaching staff now. So it's like I grew up with Coach Katz and learning the game at a really young age, at a really high level, and then going to his house afterwards and watching film and studying it. I just loved it at a very young age. And then the whole thing about, like, Kiddush Hashem came very early because my parents started sending me to non-Jewish basketball camps where I already at 9, 10, 11, 12, I'm the only Jewish kid in the whole camp. And I'm also like at the parks by myself, only Jewish kid, and just kind of getting comfortable in that environment of like being the Jewish basketball player. So
do you
it
remember
all
the
started.
very first time you picked up a basketball? I mean, do you remember that?
I don't remember the very first time, but I just remember like loving the game like crazy, like loving it and loving it and loving it, and like sleeping with the ball and practicing and training and pushing at a very young age, like pushing and never settling, just going and going and going and going.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to ask you. I mean, it's probably a difficult question, but so I'm going to fast forward here. We don't have so much time, so I mean, Tamir's story is available on a lot of other platforms and forums.
Mhm.
People will avail themselves, but here we're going to be a little targeted. I'm curious, just so you played Division I, like I think if I remember the story, it was Maryland and then Towson State, and there was some things happened. There was a debacle with a coach. We won't get into all the details right now, but I imagine at some point your aspiration, you discussed aspiring to be Division I player. I imagine at some point you aspired to be an NBA player. Would that be an accurate assessment?
I don't think so much. I didn't put the NBA in a goal. I did meet with David Stern once, all of Shalom. He did follow me. My whole thing, because already by that point, I had so many pivots. Like, I never thought I was going to graduate from a Christian school, predominantly African-American Christian school. I thought for sure I was going to play in Maryland. That didn't happen. Like, I already realized that, like, so many things that you plan just don't happen. So I already made a switch in my brain. I'm just going after it every day. And then wherever Hashem takes me, Hashem takes me. Like, so I'm going to train as hard as possible and see where it takes me. And that's what happened. And ultimately, after a really bad incident at Towson, my freshman year was great. I won the coaches award as a freshman. I started as a freshman. I had great games against Villanova, against Michigan. Like, I was absolutely living the dream. It was working.
Right.
And then coach got fired. And unfortunately, the new coach came in, and a really bad incident happened in the locker room that it was really, really bad. And I still can't wrap my head around it. And I eventually got here to Israel. And that's where I should be.
My question really is, what does it take? Like, just like for a layperson, like many of us can't fathom what it takes to make it on the highest levels of anything, right? Like, what
Yeah.
Can you kind of be magdir? Could you kind of define a little bit, like for somebody who was close, like who was in that space, like what is the level of commitment, dedication, talent, luck, mazel? Like what is all the variables to see somebody who?
Yeah, for me, yeah, I would say like on a real you in order to get that far, in my opinion, and to play against the best and compete against the best, like for me, I had a huge advantage. It was the Judaism. It was like most basketball players get their energy from like, I'm going to prove you wrong. You don't think I'm good? I'm going to get in the gym and I'm going to show you how good you are. For me, it wasn't like that, because to me that represents like a limit. Like if I'm all my energy, which is like a negative energy, is to outprove you, then I'm only proving myself up to here. But like I'm waking up in the morning thinking, man, Hashem wants me to like make a Kiddush Hashem. So no matter what gets in my way, I'm like working to like, I'm trying to, be involved with something that's like infinite. It's Hashem. There's no cap on it. So no matter how tired I am, no matter how exhausted I am, and I was crazy. I look back at some of the film. I'm like, I'm literally crazy. Like I'm not saying, it's literally like there's films of me. I break my hand. Okay. I break my hand in a game. You see my hand dangling, and I still go 3 for 3 with my opposite hand. Like I don't even go to the hospital after the game. Like I was so determined it wasn't never about me. It was about something bigger than myself. And I think like if you really, really want to get far, ask yourself, like, what's your inner potential? Why were you brought down to this world? Like, what's your mission? Once you're on a mission, you have a lot more ability to handle good times and bad times and overcome being tired and really be effective at practice every single day and what you're supposed to be doing. Like other players would be like, I'm off, man, I had a great day. I'm like, I can't do that today because I'm on to something bigger here. It's not about me. It's something bigger than myself. So the Judaism helped me. It helped me.
Although I will comment that some people, just observation, like a football player, like a Tom Brady, like some people got incredibly far in their careers, by being motivated by being a 6th pick or being motivated by what I'll call the Sur Meirah approach, like, kind of a negative energy versus a positive energy. It's pretty astounding how far negative energy can take people in their careers,
Yeah. And Jordan lived his life like that too. Like a lot of people do it, but for me, that didn't speak to me as much. Like, I guess like everything had to feel one with Judaism for me, basically.
Got it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about inspiration. It could be, today you mentioned your coach already, you mentioned parents. We all look for inspiration. We all look for mentors. Share with us a little bit, maybe open up a little bit about one or two of those relationships that inspire you. You mentioned Lubavitcher Rebbe. I mean, it could be people
Yeah.
that I always like to say, it could be people that you have daily contact with. It could be people you've never met. Maybe give us one
Yeah.
of each, like in terms of inspiration.
Yeah, so like close was my Savta of blessed memory. She was a Holocaust survivor. She was everything to me. I was closer to her than anybody else. One moment that I always think about was I actually made varsity in 7th grade. I made the varsity team, and she lived in Israel. She came to Baltimore to come watch me play, and I had a terrible game. I was so upset. I couldn't believe that Savta came all the way from Israel, and I played terrible. I have a picture of the moment, and she comes over to me after the game. She survived 2 camps. She has a huge smile on her face, and I'm like, Savta, why are you smiling? Like, I'm crushed right now. I just wanted to show you how. And that moment, she kind of taught me that, like, no matter whatever happens, you pick your head up, you put a smile on your face, and you walk forward. You just keep moving forward. And like, she taught me that, like, so that was like, always seeing her, she only passed away recently. She lived a very long life, but I was closer to her than anybody else. Just seeing a lady that survived so much tragedy, like not only during the Holocaust, like forget about she survived 2 camps. She came here to Israel. She had 2 kids. She had my mother and then another son, and she lost that son. She lost her. He was only 16 years old. He died from Crohn's disease. They didn't know how to take care of it in Israel. And he suffered for 2 years straight, died in surgery in the hospital in Kfar Saba. Like, how can you survive the camps and then lose a son and still be so positive and so amazing? Like, being around her was an amazing thing. And then like globally, like obviously I'll always be connected to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I always loved the Lubavitcher Rebbe and his teachings just because I grew up with him and I got to see him as a kid. But anyone who's overcome things or transcended things, I love. Like, I love anyone. If you transcended and you overcame, and I love and support. I love it. Like, I love watching stories of musicians and people or athletes, whatever it is. Like, that's my thing. I love people who have transcended
So interesting.
or
I'm
bounced
actually
back.
similar. I'm similar to you in that regard. I've had a little bit my son Yedidya, who has Down syndrome, and yeah, I mean, like he inspires me in terms of just watching him have such joy in life, and yeah, I mean, I think people that have been through things appreciate when things don't come easy to people. It's something that it's a unique space to really just the Shabbos is interesting. I picked up a magazine that was here from Shavuos, and there was an article about the mother of Nachshon Waxman, like 30 years into the future. Right. For those who don't know, Nachshon was a beautiful young man, Israeli young man, American also, who was kidnapped and murdered by Hamas terrorists in Israel in 1994. And his mother also had another child who had Down syndrome, and she became a tremendous advocate for young men and women with disabilities. And she talks about the challenges of her life. And her husband passed away a few years ago, and albeit it's very difficult, and she talks about remembering her son daily, but it's also uplifting and inspiring in terms of all that she's overcome and the positive attitude that she attempts to impart and instill. She talks about choosing to live and choosing to move forward despite the challenges. So that deeply resonates with me, that message that you are imparting. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, man, I remember 1994 going down to the basketball court and davening for Nachshon Waxman, because there was like a couple days that we weren't sure what was going on with him, and Israel was going to go try to bring him back. And I could even remember, so I was born in '82, so in 1994 I was already that like basketball was like the way I connected to Hashem, that I specifically remember going down the basketball court and davening for him. Like, that's where I davened for Nachshon Waxman, that the soldiers should rescue him.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Let's talk for a second. I like to ask my guests about advice and guidance in terms of sometimes we get great advice. We look back, wow, that was amazing advice. I'm so glad I listened to that. Or that was terrible advice. I'm glad I ignored it, or I regret that I listened to it. Can you think in your mind of instances where you really got excellent advice, or maybe you received poor advice?
Yeah, I would say like my favorite, like I would say 2 things. I'll start with positive. Like, a really great advice that I got was like when I was 16 and I really wanted to go play college basketball. My coach started taking me to play against college basketball, and that was the first time that I was getting the ball stripped from me and blocked from me, and I was like a really frustrated moment right there, where like a breaking point. Like I was crying. I remember slamming my hand up against the mat behind the hoop, and coach just goes like this: "Look, do you want to do this or you don't want to do it? Because if you don't want to do it, let's just go home right now." He's like, "But if you want to do it, this is the speed you're going to have to play against. This is the strength you're going to have to learn how to play against. So, what do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to do it." He's like, "If you want to do it, you got to go out. You cannot let society dictate what you can or cannot do. You got to be able to pick yourself up right now and be resilient." So I think I'm really into resilience and picking yourself up. Basketball taught me to do that. Like, if you want to do it, you got to, you cannot feel sorry for yourself. You got to pick yourself up. As far as like Jewish wise, like this is my favorite quote, like not even close.
Sure. So
It's from the Balatanya.
I don't know if everybody's gonna see it. So at least tell us.
Yeah. אינני רוצה את העולם הבא שלך. Yeah, אינני רוצה את העולם הבא שלך, רוצה אני אותך בעצמך. Like we taught some relationships with Hashem, with our family, with our friends, with business, whatever it is. Like, we're so tempted on a daily basis to like have this type of relationship. Like, I'll do anything in the world for you because I'm going to get something in return. I'm going to be friends with you because you got season tickets to the Knicks. I'm going to be, Hashem, I'm going to do every mitzvah in the world because I know you're going to give me olam haba and everything's going to be great. But that you're basically serving yourself. It's like, you're not, it's not a real relationship, and I think like once I make the switch, or like, what the greatest benefit of the relationship is the relationship. I just want to be with you. I don't want anything. I just love you, Hashem. I just love you, my wife. I just want to be with you. I think like that is such a game changer in our service of Hashem and friendships. And like, this is for sure my best Jewish quote. And then I would say like the worst advice that I've ever heard was like after 8th grade, one of the rabbis told me like, maybe Hashem doesn't want you to play. Maybe all of this is a test and Hashem doesn't want you to play and you should ignore it. He said to me, this is exactly what he said. Where are you really going to get with basketball? That's what he told me. Where are you really going to get back? I got that thing. That was like one of the worst things anybody's ever told me. And I would make sure to never tell that to a kid because it's like, it just breaks you. It's like everything I have is because of basketball, and you're like separating me away from that. Like, so I would always like encourage people to be one with their talents, use their talents, be proud of their talents, go all the way with their talents and stuff like that. Not ignore their talents or somehow say, I don't know that
Well,
whole. I wouldn't break people. I would never.
It reminds me of a very personal story. I was when I was in my 20s and I was evolving professionally, I was like dual track between being a rabbi and being a lawyer. And I've told the story when I was a guest of the podcast, and it's so funny, it just still gnaws at me today. I was in the office of a senior person in the firm who was also an Orthodox Jew. And I was confiding in him that, I'm here in the law firm, I'll do a good job, but it's not really my passion. I really want to be a rabbi, like a communal rabbi. And he looks at me and he says, like, where do you think you're going to be a rabbi? Like, and he starts naming to me these like amazing, great Torah scholars. And he was like, he's like, I don't think you're on these people's level. Like, where are you ever going to get a job as a rabbi? You better take this more seriously, he says to me. And I was crushed. First of all, I barely knew this guy. I was like, who are you to tell me that I'm not going to be a rabbi, or I can't? Like, who's anybody to tell anybody what they can or can't be? But it's funny that you have a similar. I mean, people do that to people for some reason. They just like, I don't know what their motivation is. They just want to like knock us down, or I don't know what it is. But it's interesting.
Yeah, and the one thing I almost think about on a daily basis is like like ani v'hu, like ani v'hu, like ani v'Hashem, don't break anybody's Mashiach. Meaning, like, for certain people, their Mashiach, that's their goals in life. Like, that's what they feel like they're here to do. Like, never take anyone away from that. Like, build them up. Don't break them down. Yeah,
I think it's true. I believe that.
You.
I'm thinking out loud, like as a parent. I guess there's sometimes, or it could be somebody you really care about who like really has, it could be like it's a fine line. Like when something's unrealistic, when something's realistic. I think sometimes people mean well. Like, they think like they're trying to help you, I guess. Like maybe they don't want you to waste your time or energy. I don't know. I'm just trying to see the other side of it. I know it was very painful to me when I heard it, but I guess there are times when people are telling you for your own good.
There's a way to say it.
Right. That's true.
There is a way to say it. Like, I remember the first time my mom told me, you're done. Like, your knee's out. Like, you're done. Like, there's a way to say it. There's like a way to say it without breaking somebody. There's a way to always say things in an empowering way.
I agree. That's for sure. That's brilliant. That is 100% for sure. Tell our guests just a little bit before we talk about philanthropy. Tell us a little bit, like, where are you today? Like, what have you been doing post your career? Like, just I know you're involved in a lot of I know you're involved in a lot of interesting things that surround basketball. I remember many years ago you had some sort of tzitzis business, something connected special. You came up with a patent or
Yep.
something. So tell us just a little bit. Fast forward us.
Yeah. So fast forward. Yeah, I'm rolling, man. I'm always rolling. I invented the first ever compression fit seat. So they're moisture wicking, anti-odor, and they compress your body. So I always felt like, why do we have to take off our tzitzis when we're playing if there's materials out there now that are conducive for it? So, but the problem is you have to have over 50% cotton to make them kosher. So I built this inner layer that takes all the sweat off your body. The outer layer protects the tzitzis so the tzitzis don't get ruined. So now you could play or be a soldier or whatever it is without the tzitzis getting ruined. So that was like a really fun project. My second book is coming out right now. It's with the PJ Library about being dyslexic. I have a movie coming out. I built an incredible product called Zone 190, which got stolen from me. After that got stolen from me by a huge sports company, I thought I would never make another invention again, but I went back on my own word and I created the first ever antimicrobial and moisture wicking basketball net with advertising opportunities called Aviv Net. My first product that got stolen from me, we got put out of business because the people who stole it from me got theirs in Dick's Sporting Goods nationwide, and it put us out overnight.
Wow.
But now, all these years later, I would have never thought my new product, Aviv Net, is in Dick's Sporting Goods nationwide. And I never, ever thought that would have ever happened. And it just taught me that, like, no one could take away your blessings. Like, if Hashem wants you to get to Dick's Sporting Goods, it's going to happen. There might be bumps along the way. So that's been really amazing. I got hired at the head of sports relations at Fabric, which is like this leading fan engagement company. We're doing the NBA, MLB, powering the NBA All-Star Game, NBA draft. So I'm like involved very, very strongly in sports tech. Thank God, it's been such a big blessing in my life. Yeah, I'm involved in a lot of chesed, a ton of chesed, just being able to help people through basketball. I'm 41. It's been the best year of my life. This has been not even close. Like, this has been the best year of my life, Baruch Hashem, in every single way. Do a lot of speaking engagements still, and I have more developments coming along the way in the sports tech space. I just have, when you're really dyslexic like I am, you're also really creative, and that all this, my mind is just always working because you're compensating throughout the day, and you exercise the muscles in your brain that other people aren't touching, and it just, like, I'm really good at like problem solving and creative and invention, and like I can't read or write or do math, but I could help people. I could think of solutions. I could think of solutions on the court. Like, so many kids that are struggling, their parents don't know what to do with them. They get kicked out of everywhere. Whatever, just send them to me. Send them even for a half an hour. I'm on the court with somebody, kid, for half an hour. Like, Hashem just lets me see things, and I could help them through basketball. Like, it's just a crazy thing. So, that's how I'll get back to, like, what does Hashem need from me now? Instead of, like, Hashem needs me to help these kids out through basketball. So I'm still like really involved on the court with pro players, college players, training future YU players, Stern players, and kids with special needs, anything in between. So I love every single day. I love every single day.
Fascinating. Do you do speaking in Israel as well as in the diaspora, or where?
I speak all over the world, Israel, America. The craziest things happen on these speaking tours. It's just mind-boggling. It's like almost every time I go somewhere, I meet somebody incredible. You're on a mission. Hashem's with you. Like, something fascinating is going to happen. You're going to be able to help somebody. You're going to be able to unite somebody. You're going to be able to. It's like every time something incredible happens. We're very involved with athletes for Israel, bringing over a lot of NBA guys.
All right, we had
all these connections.
We had Coach Pearl on the podcast, actually.
There you go, Coach. So many things have happened through that. So many things have happened with guys that I used to play against that made it to the NBA, and then who knows what happened. And then, like, we reunited in Israel, and then, like, blessing. It's just like amazing what happens with these speaking tours and these engagements and meeting people. Like, Hashem is everywhere. We are actually all one. And like Hashem is involved in every single relationship, every single communication. It's just like, you got to open up your eyes. You can either like leave your house every morning with your eyes and like see like negativity, or you could open up your eyes and just be open to like, okay, what's going to happen right now? And like, you see the most amazing things. So literally every day, these incredible things are happening, and just trying to be as impactful as possible,
you see
through my journey.
Yourself, you see yourself, I mean, you do a lot of coaching. Like, you ever see yourself like as a professional coach? Like, was that something you would ever want to be?
The reason I don't, and I turned it down, and I continue to turn it down, and I've turned down huge opportunities, and I'm proud of it, because you're never home at night. and I've always put family first. You're just never home. If you're a Division I coach or professional coach, you're practice every single night. As soon as practice is over, you're film. As soon as film's over, you're on the phone with agents. You're never home. You're never going to be at your kids' birthday parties. You're never going to put your kids to bed. You're never going to know what's going on. Like, I take that very seriously. Like, I want to know what's going on in my kids' lives. I want to know what's for homework, what's for dinner, what's going on, who's having a hard day, who's having a better day. Like, I'm all in. I'm all in, and I've always turned that down, and I always will turn it down. It's just not worth it to me because I always do family first.
Wow, beautiful. All right. So any last parting thoughts, as we wind down this brief interview? I'd love to.
Yeah.
Any last
No,
thoughts?
I'm a big fan of yours. Send you a lot of blessings, and to all your listeners. And if just let them know if I could ever help with anything, especially in the basketball space, sports tech space, chesed space. If there's anything I could ever do, just count me in as a friend. I feel like you never lose out. I think some people try to live very controlled lives, very protective lives of their territory, of their parnasah, very short term, very small, micromanage everything. I'm the opposite. I love everybody. I want to meet as many people as possible. I want to get involved in anything I can get involved in, and somehow it all works out. Like, I'll give you the last mashal. Like Rabbi Steinsaltz of blessed memory, he was having a hard time. He translated the Gemara. He took on too many projects. He was feeling overwhelmed. He went to the Bava Rebbe. He's like, I need to cut back. Like, what do I do? Like, what project should I drop? And the Rebbe smiled and looked at him and said, you know what? Take on another project. It's such brilliant advice, because the more you're involved in, the more you realize you could accomplish, the more you realize that, like, Hashem will make things happen for you. You'll meet the right people. You'll make the right connections, whatever it is, the more fulfilled you will feel. So, like, I'm all in. I'm all expansive. Anyone I could ever help, please reach out. I love meeting people, and I love being involved in as many things as possible.
I want people to take Tamir up on that advice, because I gain a tremendous amount following him from afar, and you see he has great energy, and a lot of the things that you've shared here in our conversation have deeply resonated with me. I really appreciate especially this idea that you're talking about in terms of, like, throw yourself into a whole bunch of different things, connect with a whole bunch of different people. You never know, what's going to come of that, and the siyata d'shmaya, the divine guidance that's overseeing all the interactions. And more is really more. More can be more. More is not always less. More can be more. Tamir, I want to give you a blessing that you should continue doing all the great things that you're doing. Continue to see nachat from your children, from your family, and continue to make a kiddush Hashem. Thank you so much for being here.